Howdy, Aggie Land. Welcome to the SEC.
Our program will be built on 4 principles in which I talk about all the time: toughness, effort, discipline, and pride.
Dang it, I'm going to have to buy that boy cream cone.
Now I'm distracted on my point. What were we talking about?
It's bullcrap. All I care about is winning. Show me the dang baby.
You do it till they do it right, and then you do it till they can't do it wrong.
Go get him. Why are you dancing around? Eat him like he's a steak.
He fits what TexAgs radio is about. He fits into what the listeners are going to want. He's a pro on every level.
That's how long I've been on ya.
It's Nuño and the crew on TexAgs radio, right here on Sports Radio 1150 AM and 93.7 FM. The Zone.
You know how long I've been on ya. Since Prince was on Apollonia. Since OJ had isotoners. Don't act like I
All right, guys. They deserve to go. They were robbed. Ridiculous, not surprising, and not acceptable. A very disappointing 14 hours. Welcome into TexAgs Radio. I'm David Nuño here, doing the show from my parents' house. I guess this is their office in here. The lighting is from 1984. Don't worry about it. I'm actually only just doing this segment. Mike Lucas is going to take over here in a moment, and I'll be back on Tuesday and Wednesday taking some spring break time for the kiddos. Selection committee sucked, though. Their criteria to get into a tournament doesn't work. It's a sham, and you know how I know it's a sham? It's a sham when most people who hate Texas A&M, who don't spend their time trolling Texas A&M, I'm talking like the normal human beings, are saying we were robbed. I'm talking Arkansas fans. I'm talking even University of Texas fans that just don't love trolling others. Everybody knows A&M deserved a spot in that NCAA tournament. They don't get it. We weren't even in the next school. A&M wasn't even the next school, and I just find that to be ridiculous. To the committee, I guess the 8-game losing streak was too much, but it's supposed to be the body of work. That 8-game losing streak was a part of the season. And would they like it better if you lost 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then 2, like 8 losses is 8 losses. And yes, it happened at one stretch. But what about what they did down the stretch? To me, it's the biggest travesty out of all. So what now? I'll tell you what now. Go win the freaking NIT. I said it last night with Logan. I'm going to say it again. Go pack Reed Arena on Tuesday night as they take on Alcorn State. Go run through the teams in the NIT as the overall number 1 seed, like you did against Auburn, like you did against Arkansas, like you did against Florida. Go win this thing, leave no doubt, and make sure you change the narrative when it comes to A&M basketball. Because I think we actually had a conversation on the show weeks back with Logan and Tap about even if they turn the ship, because we were kind of projecting what they could do. Not that anybody predicted that they would go on this kind of hot streak, but we did say if they were able to kind of right the ship a little bit, would the committee be able to forget the 8-game losing streak? And the answer to that is no. Yes, they look at these metrics and this and that, but how does Notre Dame get in? How does Wyoming get in? They're not better than A&M. A&M beat Notre Dame. Okay, and I understand that Notre Dame was having a nice season there in the ACC, but it to me, it's ridiculous. Give them the crowd that they deserve. As for the game itself yesterday, not a great performance from Texas A&M. A slow start. Tennessee was hitting their threes. A&M couldn't hit their threes. Played their hearts out. They just couldn't hit the shots. Tennessee gets to that 14-0 lead. And not that that's insurmountable, because A&M certainly had their chances getting it down to 6 a couple times. But they just didn't have the legs. They just didn't. They would never tell you that directly, but you could just see it. Their shots were hitting the top of the rim. It was just not a great performance by any stretch, especially early on. They played hard. I feel bad for Quentin Jackson. I feel bad for the entire roster, the young guys too, because you don't know how many times you're going to get this opportunity, and they weren't given the opportunity. There's a lot of things to digest from the weekend. Obviously, we can get into baseball winning 2 of 3 and whatnot. If you want to be a part of the conversation, Mike Lucas would love it, I'm sure. You can call us up on the BCSI hotline, 979-693-1150, or text us on the A&B text line. Right now, let's go to the studio as Mike is going to tag in and take care of the remainder of the show. Mike, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, David. It's a little lonely in the studio without you, but I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about, and I agree with almost everything you said in that opening rant. There's no reason in my mind that A&M shouldn't be part of that 68-team field, especially after the performance we saw in the SEC tournament from guys like Quentin Jackson, Tyrese Radford, Henry Coleman, and the rest of that Aggie squad, which proved, despite all the outside noise during that 8-game losing streak, they never caved into the outside pressure. They believed in what Buzz was building, There were some philosophical changes on offense and defense that allowed this team to rebound from that 8-game losing streak. And if you look at who are the 68 best teams in the country right now, there's no way Texas A&M isn't part of that field.
So yesterday when Logan and I were talking, I made a comment. It was more of a throwaway comment, but I started thinking about it. A&M is for sure right now one of the 30 best teams in the country. I would argue they're one of the best 25 teams in the country right now, the way they're playing. Outside of the tired legs in Tennessee, the way they've played the last month of the season, I would say they're one of the 25 best teams in the country.
When they have Quentin Jackson, Radford, and Coleman playing at the level they have over the last couple weeks, this is a top 25, top 30 team without a doubt. They finally have found an offensive rhythm. They found how to work together cohesively on that end of the court, which was something for even the stretch run in the beginning of SEC play. It wasn't consistent offensively. They found a way to make it work, and that's a credit to Buzz and his staff for tweaking little things that may not seem monumental in the moment, but as this team learned to play together and as Quentin Jackson developed into that guy who we had been missing for the first 2 months of the season, this A&M team proved they could play with anybody. And more importantly than anything else, they forced other teams to play into their style. And during that 8-game losing streak, we saw A&M try and mix and match with bigger teams, play two bigs. That distracted from what they want to do offensively. We saw at other times they tried to go too small, and they weren't capable of it because they just weren't making shots. But down this stretch run, they forced other teams to match them, and A&M did a better job of counteracting that than the other teams were able to do. That's why they beat Auburn. They made Auburn play their style. Auburn's not built for that style, and A&M is better at playing small ball than Auburn was. Same thing with Arkansas. They made Arkansas get out of what they like to do offensively and play a slower offensive pace than the Razorbacks want to. A&M was better at that style than Arkansas. That was not what we saw during the 8-game losing streak. And to win 8 of your last 10 games, to make the SEC tournament finals, to win 7 in a row until that championship game. And let's be honest, Tennessee can win the whole thing. And we'll talk about the bracket later, but they ran into a powerhouse team in Tennessee who, by getting a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, I think the committee did Tennessee dirty as well. On top of A&M, I think the whole playing a championship game on Sunday before the committee actually puts their bracket out is a flawed system. It doesn't give the committee enough time to really digest what happened, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later in the show as well. But A&M's playing as good as anyone in the country right now. And I think entering the NIT, we talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, David, would rather make the tournament or make a deep run in the NIT. I think as this progressed, I think you'd rather make the tournament because you deserve to be in that field of 68. But A&M's a chance to win a championship this year. I'm not sure if they were good enough to win a national championship if they made the big dance. And there is something to be said about the experience of not only chasing a championship, but winning and playing in these big games where it's win or go home that can catapult this team forward next year. And I have some stats. You want to hear some stats? The last 2 times A&M made the NIT, the following years have been really, really good. The last time they made the NIT was 2015 and 2016. A&M won 28 games, made the Sweet 16. The time before that, in 2005, they made the NCAA tournament in 2006 and 2007. 27 wins as a team, a Sweet 16 appearance as well. So playing in the NIT and playing well in the NIT can catapult you to future success in coming years, which this A&M roster is building towards anyway.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think both things can be correct. It would be better to be in the NCAA tournament when you're trying to attract these 6'8", 6'10" recruits out there that see all the teams playing. From that perspective, the NCAA tournament, but 100% for this team to keep playing basketball is great. And to have a chance to be the 1 seed and go deep, absolutely. And I had the privilege of covering the team after the NIT run that Logan was a part of, by the way. And, this team has, I don't want to say a lot of the same pieces because they don't. I mean, it's very hard to replicate, even though I made a comment, could Wade Taylor be the next AC? That's unfair to anybody. But they have a lot of the same pieces of the Joseph Jones and the Dominique Kirks and, and whatnot, Donald Sloan later on. So there's a lot of guys that have come from that era that I think this team will be remembered fondly for that same reason, being the first of this Buzz group. They just got to go do it. But I will say this, in the overall big picture, it's A&M has been robbed on a couple of occasions. I actually expected it in the college football playoffs a couple of years ago because I thought they were going to give the benefit of the doubt to Notre Dame because they're Notre Dame. And not that I ever agreed with it because they were robbed and we saw what Notre Dame did. But I kind of expected it. This time I expected it, but I didn't. And what I mean by that was They've played so well. They even had Lenardi changing his mind about A&M and again, Lenardi doesn't have it out for A&M. He's basing this on what he's hearing behind the scenes and using the metrics himself. But I disagreed with him. But this time, when we were halfway through the selection show, I'm thinking, here we go. Are we really here again? Are we really going to go here once again? And that's what it felt like. Selection committees, they don't have it out for A&M, but they love to exclude A&M.
Yeah, the biggest rivalry in college athletics right now is no longer Duke UNC. It's no longer Ohio State Michigan. It is Texas A&M versus selection committees. Like, that is what it's come down to at this point, where you're right. I don't think it's necessarily we hate Texas A&M, but for some reason they don't seem to respect the accomplishments of a Texas A&M football team, basketball team, whatever program you're talking about, on the same level as some other schools who are more traditional blue bloods in the sense. You look at the resumes. A&M has more quad one wins than Notre Dame. A&M has more conference wins than Michigan. A&M made it deeper in their conference tournament than both Wyoming and Indiana. I mean, you could go and nitpick resumes point by point, and I'm going to do that later in the show. A&M could be argued that Michigan isn't even a playing game. The committee looked at Michigan at 17 and 14 overall and said, hey, you're not even one of the last 4 teams in. You're an at-large bid because of your strength of schedule. Well, strength of schedule is cool, but if you don't beat those teams, does it really matter? Would you rather have wins or losses against better teams? I'd rather have wins, and A&M went 15-2 in conference play. Michigan did not. They only won 17 games all season, and with the Juwan Howard incident, I think that should be a knock against them, not a, hey, our record's not as good because this happened. And right. I'll stand by this, and I'll go to the grave with it. The SEC conference was really good this year. They got 6 teams in. That was tied for second most of any conference. You hear John Calipari, you hear Rick Barnes say A&M's a conference team. They won 12 games in the SEC. And I don't care if it included an 8-game losing streak in the middle of that. 12 SEC wins is 12 SEC wins. And at the end of the day, that should be enough to get you in the tournament, regardless of the rest of your resume.
Well, you know what? It's regardless. I expect for Buzz and the crew to, they probably sulked a little bit last night on that ride back. But for them to go attack this NIT and leave no doubt. And I really hope that because like right now, my interest is in the NIT. I don't care about the NCAA tournament. All right, we got a phone here from 1984 as well here at my parents' house. So we'll hopefully somebody will answer that here in a moment. But all right, let's do this, Mike. I'm gonna let you take over the show for the remainder of the show. Thank you for filling in for me. I'm hanging out with my parents that I don't get to see as often as I'd love to. Dad is in his 90s, mom is in her 80s, so it's great to have the kids with them. I'll be back in studio tomorrow. I will be back on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, I'll be taking off. But I'll be monitoring the Aggies, everything they're doing. I know you got a busy show. We've got baseball to get into. I'm sure some spring football will come up, and a lot of great guests, including the great Billy Liucci, who will be joining you here shortly. So, Mike, thank you for filling in. This is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Hey guys, David Nuño here for the Aggie loan expert. That's Christine Engler, big friend of TexAgs, big friend of mine, and she's been doing it for a long time, especially with this real estate market that is still booming out there. Homeowners have seen record gains in equity in their homes. So if you're considering renovations like debt consolidation or need money right now, I know a lot of us need money right now, especially the way gas prices have been, Christine may have the perfect solution for you. Rates are still near all-time lows. There's never been a better time for a cash-out refinance. You can lower your monthly payment and get the funds that you need. All you got to do is, it's real simple, guys. Just do it right now. Go to AggieLoanExpert.com. That is AggieLoanExpert.com. Christine Engler, she's going to take great care of you. She's been doing it for a long time. She's an Aggie, class of 97. Her husband, also an Aggie. You got to link up with her, AggieLoanExpert.com. Terms and conditions do apply. Christine Engler, Aggie Loan Expert, NMLS number 1309378, company NMLS number 1324641, equal housing opportunity.
I'm Chelsea Reber with your community calendar on The Zone, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. With an easy refinance, save over $350 a month. NMLS 1309378, equal housing opportunity. Brazos Valley Troop is holding an improv jam, workshop, and performance opportunity on Saturday, March 19th for kids ages 10 and up. To register or for more information, email trooperinfo@gmail.com. The Brazos County Master Gardener Spring Plant Sale is Saturday, March 26th from 8 to 11 a.m. at the Brazos County Extension Office. Bring your wagon and load up. Newly formed cancer support groups are available for cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers the fourth Monday of each month. No reservations are necessary. Contact Mending Hearts for more information. Help the Brazos Valley Food Bank bring hope to the table. Go online to bvfb.org. That's your community calendar, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. I'm Chelsea Reber on The Zone.
Get ready for the St. Joseph Health Grand Fondo Ride. Sunday, April 24th, cycle with hundreds of riders through the Brazos Valley countryside. The Grand Fondo Ride is presented by the Stella Hotel and Lake Walk. All proceeds raised from the event will benefit St. Joseph Health Cancer Center. Registration is now open at bcsgrandfondo.com. Log on today to register or sign up to volunteer. Cycle, hope, inspire at the Grand Fondo Ride, Sunday, April 24th.
We're here with Jason Rollo of Rollo Insurance. Jason, when we say the difference is real, what does that mean?
Let's take the term real, R-E-A-L. Rates, education, assets, and life. And here's what I mean. People think insurance is about rates, and although those are important, it's really about education of the product you're buying so we can protect the assets of people, and we want to do that for life. Insurance is about taking care of people, and that's what we mean when we say the difference is real.
For more information, go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs.
The flagship station for Aggie Athletics is The Zone. Whenever the Aggies are playing, you can hear them right here at 1150 and 93.7 FM. Thanks to our listeners and our Aggie broadcast sponsors, Schulte Roofing, Prosperity Bank, Hargrove Insurance, and Rudy's Barbecue. Here's a big gig 'em to all these sponsors. Listen to Aggie Athletics on The Zone 1150 and 93.7 FM.
Here at The Zone, we like to hook you up with tickets to all the places that you want to be. And it could be Aggie football, basketball, baseball, Schlitterbahn, or maybe seeing your favorite bands in concert. It's Chili Fest time of the year. And if you'd like to win a pair of tickets to go to both nights of Chili Fest, the Randy Rogers Band, Co Wetzel, and so much more, go register now at Gage Gandy Bail Bonds. If you'd like to win a pair of tickets to Chili Fest, go register now at Gage Gandy Bail Bonds.
And welcome back to TexAgs Radio. Mike Lucas here, filling in for David Nuño in the Rollo Insurance Studio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. As always, we have a big show to get to for the rest of the day here. Let's just go over the rundown and let you guys know what's coming up. We have Billy Liucci joining the show, the legend, in about 15 minutes. We'll talk all things A&M being snubbed from the tournament, plus maybe a little spring football. We'll see how that talk goes. Coach Schloss, he's joining the show at 9:05 to talk about A&M's series win over Santa Clara this weekend. The Aggies split the doubleheader on Saturday, pulled out a 5-2 win on Sunday. They have one more non-conference game before heading down to Baton Rouge this weekend to open up SEC play. We have Tom Hart from the SEC Network joining the show at 9:35. We're going to break down the tournament. We'll find out why he thinks A&M was snubbed or not and who he has in his Final Four as the bracket all comes together. 9:50, Richard Zane with Around Aggie Land will join the show. And then the 10 o'clock hour, it's kind of open. We're going to have some fun, break down A&M's matchup with Alcorn State in the NIT, tell you guys why the committee has it out against A&M, maybe talk a little spring football, maybe even talk a little Tom Brady. Tom Brady announced he is unretiring and coming back to play for the Bucs next season. It's one of the few stories that could have happened in the entire world of sports that could have even cut a little bit of attention away from Selection Sunday and March Madness, but Tom Brady decided retirement life? Not for him. He misses football already, and it was time to come back. We have a few minutes here, though, and let's talk about some of the differences in Texas A&M down the stretch for this Buzz Williams basketball team that we didn't see during the 8-game losing streak in the middle of the season. And it's not personnel. It's not necessarily offensive philosophy, defensive philosophy. A lot of this comes down to making and missing shots. And it sounds simple, and basketball really is a simple game. But when you make shots, everything changes. You look back to that Kentucky game. When Kentucky came to Reed Arena. Biggest crowd in Reed Arena history. It was a sellout. A&M ends up losing that game by 6, but they shot 2 of 25 from 3. You make 2 shots, 3 shots, that game's completely different. A&M fought and clawed their way back to keep Kentucky at bay, leading for a large majority of that game, but were unable to put away the Wildcats when they needed to most. And it came down to just not making a three when it mattered. You look at the SEC tournament, and that Kentucky was not the outlier. That was the case for a lot of A&M games throughout that 8-game losing streak in SEC play. Fast forward to the tournament. You had Boots Radford, who may be the most underrated player in the entire conference, maybe the entire country, knocking down threes at a 60% clip. You had Quentin Jackson developing into the guy before our eyes, and with him scoring nearly 20 points a game through that stretch run for A&M, defenses were not able to focus on packing the paint, and instead, they had to spread out and force other guys to beat them individually. And when you do that, other guys have to step up. Radford did. Henry Coleman did. Coleman, who was invisible in some big-time games earlier this season, landed himself on the All-SEC tournament team in impressive fashion. He found ways to attack slower big defenders from the high post because they were only playing with one big. He was the only true big on the floor, meaning the geometry of the defense was spread out to two guys in the corner, two guys on the wing, and Coleman at the high post, leaving him in one-on-one opportunities where the former Duke player, former All-American, current Texas A&M Aggie, dominated. And it was fun to watch. Now, you go back to that 8-game losing streak. They weren't getting those easy opportunities. They were not creating favorable matchups in their own right to attack. They were playing into what the defense wanted them to do. And that's a testament to what Buzz Williams and this team has done. On an 8-game losing streak, this team should have thrown the towel in and said, hey, it was a good start to the season. We just don't have it. Buzz wasn't going to let them do that. Buzz was not going to let this team quit. And that is what coaching at the end of the day comes down to, is getting the most talent or getting the most out of the talent on your roster and keeping your team focused at the prize and the goals at hand. And despite that month-long stretch where it seemed like A&M would never win a basketball game, this team didn't quit. They did the opposite. They found a way to come together. They found a way to resolve some of their issues on the court. They found a way to stick together like a family and turn it into something special. And whether or not this ends in an NIT championship, we know it should have ended in a trip to the NCAA tournament. This is an A&M team that I think a lot of fans around Aggie Land will remember forever. For their resiliency, for being the foundation of which this basketball program will be built upon, and for being the first team that inspired the Buzz Williams era that it could really be something. And this team was special, and it should have been in the NCAA tournament. 12 wins should have got you a win by itself. It didn't. And I'm going to look at Notre Dame real quick. We'll break down the other bubble teams that got in over A&M, but let's look at Notre Dame real quick. And this is just some of the reasons why it makes absolutely no sense for A&M not to be included in this field. Let's go with regular season records. Just regular season records. Texas A&M, 22-11. Notre Dame, 21-10. Let's look at quad one wins. Something the committee says is very important when evaluating two teams side by side. A&M, 4-9 in quad one. Notre Dame, 2-8. Let's go to net rankings. A&M, 42nd. Notre Dame, 53rd. How'd they do in their conference tournaments? The SEC got 6 teams in the big dance. The ACC got 5. So based on that alone, you could assume the SEC was a better conference this season. A&M made it all the way to the conference finals, where they eventually lost to Tennessee. Notre Dame, they lost in the quarterfinals. And if that's not enough, A&M beat Notre Dame in a head-to-head matchup in the Maui-Las Vegas tournament earlier this year. I don't know what the NCAA selection committee necessarily is looking at when they decide which teams are worthy, which teams aren't worthy of getting in. We haven't got a definitive reason as to why A&M was snubbed. But we do know it's not about total wins. It's not about conference wins. It's not about quad one and quad two wins. It's not about head-to-head outcomes. It's not about net rankings. And it's not about conference tournaments. Heck, Virginia Tech won the ACC tournament, and they got an 11th seed, which leads me to believe that if the Hokies didn't win the ACC tournament, they didn't beat Duke on Saturday night, they're not getting in the tournament, meaning the ACC would have been just a 4-bid league. It makes no sense. And at least in my opinion, I am in favor of some more transparency within the selection committee, both in college football and in college basketball. If you're going to exclude certain teams and let other teams in, I want a definitive reason as to why this team got in over this team. Does it mean I'm going to agree with it? No. Does it mean fans are going to agree with it? Absolutely not. I'm sure even if they did give a definitive reason, fans of certain fan bases would find ways to nitpick it apart and say, this doesn't make sense and it should be changed. There's no perfect system. But the lack of transparency leads to too many questions and too many unanswered things as to why certain teams get in and certain teams don't. An 8-game losing streak in the middle of conference play is hard to swallow. I get it. I completely, totally understand it. But this is supposed to be the total body of work. And A&M was 15-2 in non-conference. They didn't play a ton of great teams, but 15-2 is still 15-2. They ended up 12-10 in SEC play and made the SEC tournament finals where they lost to Tennessee, who is one of the best teams in the country. There's no shame in losing to Tennessee, who got a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Frankly, I don't get it. Joe Lunardi had A&M in after not having them in forever. Every bracketologist had A&M in despite losing to Tennessee. And to see the selection committee come out and have A&M as the 4th team left out, not just the 1st team, not the 69th team, but the 72nd team? I don't understand, and I have a lot of questions I would like to ask somebody who's smarter than me who's on that selection committee. We're going to go through why A&M probably deserved to make it over Michigan, why they probably deserve to make it over Indiana, why they definitely deserve to make it over Wyoming, and while they definitely deserve to make it over Rutgers and Notre Dame as well. Those are 5 teams that I believe A&M should have been in the tournament over after their total body of work. We don't have the answers. All we know is A&M is playing in the NIT. They tip off tomorrow night against Alcorn State. Pack Reed Arena, 8 p.m. tip. We're going to preview that game as well. But it's a consolation prize. And sometimes you have to make the best out of a bad situation. That's what A&M and Buzz Williams and this team is going to do. They're going to be determined to send Quentin Jackson off in style. They're going to be determined to end this season on a high note. And we'll see how far they can go. But at the end of the day, the NIT is a consolation prize. And that is where we stand right now. We got to take a quick break here on TexAgs Radio. When we come back, Billy Liucci joins the show. This is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Now a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. If you need a deal, you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You're looking for your new car, you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You need great service? Well, of course you do. Doesn't matter where you're going. You need to have great service. If it's coffee or for food or if it's for a brand new vehicle, let Zach Hester and his crew take care of you. They've been doing it in this area for a very long time, and they're going to help you every step of the way. When you're looking for a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle, Zach Hester and Caldwell Country Chevrolet is the place to go to. Simply call, click, or stop by Caldwell Country Chevrolet today. And I'm telling you, those deals online are the best there at Caldwell Country. When you start your search, you can go a lot of places, but start online there. And I'm telling you, you're going to love the process. You're going to love the people out there. It's going to be great. It's Caldwell Country Chevrolet. That's on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com.
His playlist might have Oasis, Bad Bunny, and Kanye, but he's thinking about his Aggies all the time. It's David Nuño and TexAgs Radio on The Zone.
Hey parents, when it comes to your child's education, there's a lot to consider. No matter what you're searching for, search the Bryan Broadcasting half-price tuition program first. We've partnered with schools and learning centers throughout the area to get your students started with high-quality programs at half price. Right now, we're featuring half-price tuitions at Hopewell Classical Day School, Kinder Music, Happy Camper School, Multilingual Academy, and more. Half-price tuitions are first come, first served, and availability is limited. Go to halfpricebrazos.com.
Shop local, buy local, save big deals.
It's not every day you can save money. Oh, wait, you can. Hi, Jenny here from Big Deals. When you shop Big Deals, you'll save money every day on dozens of gift certificates from local businesses like these.
Nestle Toll House Cafe by Chip, Socorro's Second Chance Resale Shop, Superior Auto Service, and the Chocolate Gallery. Visit AggielandBigDeals.com to save big. AggielandBigDeals.com.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the UIL, are the 825,000 high school sports and performing arts students in Texas. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, debate team members, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, officials, and adjudicators. We stand for the drummers, football players, and actors. We stand for the golfers, singers, and swimmers. We stand as the national leader and advocate for these essential activities and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
This is ESPN Radio.
The commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey.
Texas and Oklahoma are going to be part of the Southeastern Conference. There have been a lot of accusations about me scheming or conniving to create something. I'll just tell you directly, that's inaccurate.
Current Major League part of the New York Mets organization. He is Trevor May.
We are aligned no matter how bad we don't want to be aligned on stuff. We are aligned on that if we like it or not.
Joined by Bubba Wallace.
We're basically buying it off the internet and getting all the pieces and piecing it together and taking it to the racetrack. So basically like a kit car.
Pro Football Hall of Famer Tony Baselli.
How does it make you feel knowing that you are now going to be in Canton?
It's humbling. It's like unbelievable that my name is going to be there for all time next to the greatest guys who ever played this game. It just hits me. I'm like, holy cow, I'm in the Hall of Fame.
ESPN Radio, weeknights and weekends on Sports Radio 1150 AM and 93.7 FM. The Zone.
Welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. This is Mike Lucas, filling in for David Nuño today in the Rollo Insurance Studio. And it's not TexAgs without the man, the myth, the legend, Billy Liucci, who joins us now from the BCSI hotline. Billy, I saw your tweets last night. What's up with the NCAA selection committees, and what do they have against Texas A&M?
You know, I'm never that type of conspiracy theorist, Mike. But sometimes it makes you wonder. It really does. And I'm not wondering. I don't think they have anything against A&M. But it is like when you look at it, you go, and then both of them involve Notre Dame. But this time, my bigger issue, I've got a much bigger issue this time, Mike, than I did with the college football playoff. Because even though I disagreed with it, I understood what they were trying to say about Notre Dame and Ohio State in particular that season. And even though I say, okay, I disagree, and here's why. I understood like that they could come up with valid points, and I feel like, well, I could refute those valid points. In this one, I don't think there's any way that you could sit me down, and I just think this kind of crap came down to the net and these numbers that this committee, who to me, and I haven't dove in to really study who's a part of this committee yet, but to me they were either lazy and had so much of that field set before the conference tournaments, or at least before like the Sunday games, which I'm not saying them lost to Tennessee, like before the Saturday games. Either they had so much of it set, they just couldn't be bothered, or they just don't watch basketball, Lucas. And there's nothing that you can tell me when I look at Notre Dame's resume, and I've looked at that. And by resume, here's what I mean. I look at their schedule and who they beat and who they lost to, and their conference record and their last, not even their last 10 games, their conference record, who they beat and lost to. You just look at that, and watch basketball. Okay, so look at Wyoming and SMU and OU, who I guess were technically ahead of A&M. Wake Forest. You can go up and down on this thing. Xavier. There were so many, and I'm forgetting some, but even Indiana. I think, and Indiana and A&M to me were about equal. Indiana came in about 8 spots higher than A&M, it looks like. So Michigan's another one. I went through and looked, I looked at the schedule and results, and it was amazing to look and go, how is that better than what Texas A&M did? I just don't understand it. So then you go into it and you go, well, it's probably some kind of net. Their net ranking. Like, explain to me the net, on this committee, and why is that more important than watching basketball and understanding which teams deserve to be in and which don't? And that's where I think they miss. And I don't think anyone sits in that room and would have just said, guys, this is college basketball. Have we been watching it? Have you seen Texas A&M? Now go look at that resume. So anyway, I think the SEC, Mike, was a little disrespected for the year they had, and I think A&M, was the team that got victimized by that.
I totally agree. My question to the committee would be, outside of giving an automatic qualifying bid to the champion, why play a postseason tournament if those games aren't as important as what you did during the regular season? I feel like those games should be weighted even a little more highly because of what's at stake and what's on the line, and what A&M did in the SEC tournament, in my opinion, should have been enough on its own really to prove that they are one of the best 68 teams in the country.
Yeah, you're spot on. And here's the other thing, Mike. And if you're going to make, like, let's say A&M would have won yesterday and won an auto bid. If you're going to, in my opinion, and this is something that they need to discuss, if you're going to make those conference tournaments that important, then I think you should get a little extra. I mean, it's almost like those wins should count more. If by winning that tournament you're clinching an automatic bid, and in the smaller conferences you can steal one from a team that is, that won the regular season by 4 games, but you can steal their bid by beating them in the conference tournament. Like, when you weigh those games, they should carry more weight. And that should be a discussion that the committee has. That, hey, look, if we're going to play these conference tournaments and make them so important that they get an automatic bid for winning them, then these games are more, they matter more because they're being played late, right before the tournament, and like you say, like the importance of them should go up the further along you go. In other words, beating Arkansas on what day was that? Saturday should have counted more than beating Arkansas in January. I mean, like, they should somehow figure that out, but God knows they won't, because that'll make their job even more difficult. So, but look, the other thing is this. The big thing I heard, and this is what everybody from, every jackass Longhorn fan on Twitter all the way, to some of the people in college basketball trying to explain this away. Well, tough to make it with an 8-game losing streak. I agree with that. But when you start using that 8-game losing streak as some kind of negative that kept A&M out, then if you do that, don't hit me with the body of work crap, because the two things are completely contradictory. If you're going to focus on the 8-game losing streak, then that means, winning 8 out of 9 there down the stretch is equally as important. I mean, well, 8 games, okay, fine, 15-2, and then 8 out of 9. Well, I get 2 good pieces of, 2 good pieces to put in your little non-mathematical machine than the one, and it's the body of work. You don't take the 8-game losing streak and use that as logic to say that's why A&M's out. And then you can't say, well, it's the body of work. Because it's the body of work, you don't. It doesn't matter if they lost those 8 in a row or if they lost them spread out. You just look at their final record, who they beat, who they lost to. That's it. It doesn't matter the order, because if the order matters, then A&M should have been rolling in there. And the other thing to me about it is, when they say body of work and they had an 8-game losing streak, it really does, Mike. It makes me think they're just looking on paper and they're not watching basketball, and they certainly weren't watching it enough this week down the stretch to do what they did.
Yeah, I totally agree. A&M had more Quad 1 wins than Notre Dame, a better record in Quad 1 and Quad 2 games than Rutgers. They had 6 more wins as a team than Michigan. They had 3 more wins than Indiana and 3 more conference wins than Indiana. I mean, you look at every metric, you can make a case over the 5 teams that made it ahead of A&M that the Aggies should have been in that spot instead of them. But as the cookie crumbles, the Aggies are headed to the NIT. They host Alcorn State tomorrow night, Billy. And you know Buzz as well as almost all of us do, and you know this team inside and out. I know what I think they're going to come out and try to prove a point for Quentin Jackson and to prove that this season and this late surge wasn't just a flaw. I think they're going to absolutely lay it on Alcorn State tomorrow night. Do you see any situation or any way that A&M comes out and lets the hangover and the disappointment from not making the NCAA tournament affect them in this NIT run?
No, I'd be very surprised if they did. I wonder if they can sustain that over the course of the whole tournament and go win the whole thing, run all the way through, all the way through the Garden. But Tuesday night, no, I think they're going to come out with a purpose. And I think throughout the whole deal, I think as this thing goes, and for people that were wondering that A&M should sit out the NIT as some sort of protest, that's completely wrong. They'd never do it. I mean, don't you want to watch this team play again, first of all? These guys deserve to play together again. They have a chance to cut down nets and win a trophy. And win one. Now, again, I probably should know this, but I don't think A&M ever won it. I know they made a run that first year under Billy Gillespie, but, I mean, go and try to win it, cut down nets and win a championship. And just go out to where you go, you know what? Obviously, we should have been in. And that's what pisses me off the most about this, Mike. Like, look, here was my Sunday. I watched the game. I hung out with friends, watched the game, watched the selection show, went down to Houston, had dinner, spent some time with more friends, came home to my dog and watched Billy. I had a really nice little Sunday. Okay? That was a blip on the radar. But for people that think like, oh, well, you seemed upset or whatever on Twitter or on, everybody, Nuño and Logan were pissed on TexAgs. Here's the thing: it's frustration because we want to watch this team play more, and we felt like, and here's the bigger frustration to me: I felt like A, they deserved it, and B, this was a team, Lucas, that could have won. This could have been a Sweet 16 team. I mean, I'm not saying they would have UCLA'd it, played for the national title, but they would have been a really difficult out in the tournament. And we all know that. Everybody that covers college basketball knew. This would have been a fun team to have in the tournament. They would have been an incredibly difficult out. Who knows? Quentin Jackson could have become even more of a star than he was becoming this past week. I mean, he could have been one of the storylines of the first weekend of that tournament, and who knows beyond that even. But so that kind of what if thing is kind of always going to make Aggies wonder. But as I say that, Mike, if you think as an A&M fan or even people like us that cover the team to say, man, what if that team could have been in? Man, that team could have done some damage. What do you think Quentin Jackson's thinking right now? What do you think Boots is thinking, Henry Coleman, anybody on that team? But they were robbed, and that pisses me off. Like that's the source of actual anger for me, was when I saw that. And I just feel terrible for them to have, in my opinion, earned their way in, and they're not getting a shot to play in that tournament. And that is tough for me because I can't imagine how those kids feel today and how they felt yesterday when they were sitting in there for that selection show. So I'd love to see it end with smiles on their faces and stuff, because they had that taken away from them by a bunch of pinheads on a committee that were worried about the net ranking than they were actually getting the damn thing right.
And the net ranking's an ESPN metric that no one actually knows exactly the algorithm or the formula that goes into formulating that. And when you look at the net ranking, which is something the committee says they value highly, A&M was 42nd. It's not like they had a bad net at the end of the season. They were right up there with a lot of teams who made the tournament and were higher than a lot of teams that ended up making the tournament. Heck, Rutgers was 77th in the net, Billy. and they're in.
Yeah. Well, you said Rutgers earlier, and I didn't want to derail you, but yeah, that was that. They might have been as bad as any of them.
Yeah, I have a full Rutgers rant to go on later in the show when we break down team by team why A&M had a better resume. But Rutgers had a quad 4 loss this year. Rutgers was 9-10 in quad 1 and 2 games. A&M was 9-9. A&M's 31 spots higher in the Ken Palm than Rutgers, and 25, my math is correct, 35 spots higher in the net. My math is terrible. I'm not a math major. You can make it's inexcusable, and I think you said it best earlier. If you're going to look at the full body of work, then the SEC tournament games mean just as much as that 8-game losing streak. You can't have it one way or the other. You can't say you lost 8 games in the middle of the season. That's what our mind's going to remember most, and disqualify what A&M did late in the year, because the basketball team, or really any sport, the team you see at the beginning of the season versus the end of the season are 2 different squads. The only similarity is they're wearing the same uniform. So I think the community likes to pick and choose certain metrics to hit certain talking points that they want to discuss and get some certain teams that they want in the tournament more than others. But it makes no sense at the end of the day.
They're like politicians. And like you listen to Gary Barta talk about the college football playoff. You read the Southland Conference guy yesterday, and they sound like politicians when you ask them a simple question, and within 4 seconds of talking, you can tell this person has no freaking clue about the answer. But they'll talk like they know what they're talking about, and hope that you don't notice. But meanwhile, they don't even realize that everyone that's actually listening to you understands that the words that are coming out of your mouth make no sense. And we know you don't know what you're talking about, but you're going to keep going until you've kind of distracted enough from the point. And look, if you're going to worry about, my final thing, Michael says, if you're going to worry about the 8-game losing streak, I would contend that, hey, that's all the more reason for A&M to be in it, because, again, it is your full body of work. It is your entire resume. And the fact that they suffered through an 8-game losing streak and still rebounded, I'm not saying that should make you go, oh, hey, bonus points for that. But what I'm saying is, much like a team that played early in the season with a guy that was injured, you hear this all the time, well, they're a different team now. Well, on some level, if you're a committee, you go, okay, is A&M's resume strong enough? And are they out of these 5 teams that were weighing for 2 spots or whatever, these 7 teams that were weighing for 2 spots? To me, when you're looking at A&M, one of the determining factors should be that's not the same basketball team that lost 8 games in a row. So you're looking at them now, and it's not just for the conference tournament, it's for the last 3 weeks or so. This is a completely different basketball team, and clearly they didn't factor that in.
Awesome. Billy, we appreciate the time for joining us on the BCSI hotline. We got to take another quick break. There will be more TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in just a sec.
I'm Chelsea Reber with your community calendar on The Zone, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. With an easy refinance, save over $350 a month. NMLS 1309378, Equal Housing Opportunity. Brazos Valley Troop is holding an improv jam, workshop, and performance opportunity on Saturday, March 19th for kids ages 10 and up. To register or for more information, email trooperinfo@gmail.com. The Brazos County Master Gardener Spring Plant Sale is Saturday, March 26th from 8 to 11 a.m. at the Brazos County Extension Office. Bring your wagon and load up. Newly formed cancer support groups are available for cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers the 4th Monday of each month. No reservations are necessary. Contact Mending Hearts for more information. Help the Brazos Valley Food Bank bring hope to the table. Go online to bvfb.org. That's your community calendar, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. I'm Chelsea Reber on The Zone.
Chili Fest 2022, presented by Miller Lite, is headed to Snook, Texas, April 1st and 2nd for 2 days of live music, including Saturday performances by Tanner S. Ray, Pecos Rooftops, Colby Cooper, Easton Corbin, and headliner Co Wetzel. And Friday with Joey Greer, Treaty Oak Revival, Cody West, Mike Ryan, Flatland Cavalry,
College Station,
Them balls are good to me.
And headliner, the Randy Rogers Band.
Trying to buy myself a chair.
Get tickets now at chilifest.org, plus camping, team information, and more. ChiliFest 2022, presented by Miller Lite. Miller Brewing Company. Great beer, great responsibility. 21 means 21.
Grab your first cup of coffee weekday mornings with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Powered by WC Tractor right here on 1150 AM and 93.7 FM. Plus online at RadioAggieland.com. WC Tractor, your local award-winning Kubota in New Holland. Do you have questions? Look them up online at WCTractor.com. That's WCTractor.com. You can also call them at 1-888-8-TRACTOR. That's 1-888-8-TRACTOR. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Powered by WC Tractor.
From the Combine.
The central storyline by this Combine and a sea of storylines about to unfold.
To free agency.
Jarvis Landry, he's at a point in his career where he should look to team up.
To the NFL Draft.
We focus in on the quarterbacks. The draft is generally defined by those guys.
The NFL season never ends.
Listen in to ESPN Radio, weeknights and weekends on Sports Radio, 1150 and 93.7 FM.
And welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. This is Mike Lucas in the Rollo Insurance Studio, filling in for David Nuño today. Nuño will be back tomorrow and Wednesday, and we'll have some guest fill-in hosts on Thursday and Friday as well. Thanks again to Billy Liucci for joining the show. We got Coach Schloss coming up in just a few minutes. Tom Hart also will join the show, and we're working on getting you a special guest here in the 10 o'clock hour, so stay tuned for that. If we can land the big kahuna we're trying to reel in, you guys are in for a real treat. The talk of the day, though, Texas A&M robbed by the NCAA selection committee. The Aggies should have been one of the 68 teams playing in the big dance. Unfortunately for A&M, they got the consolation prize, the number 1 seed in the NIT tournament. They'll take on Alcorn State tomorrow. 8 o'clock tip-off at Reed Arena. If the A&M Aggies win, they will host and continue to host all the way up until the semifinals of the NIT tournament, which then moves to Madison Square Garden. We'll talk real quick about the game yesterday. A&M, Tennessee, SEC championship. When you go down 16-0 or 14-0 in the first 4 minutes to a team of Tennessee's caliber, it's darn near impossible to claw your way back. A&M playing their 4th game in 4 days. I'm not going to say there was tired legs, but they weren't making some of the shots they had made previously in the SEC tournament. And when push came to shove, the Volunteers proved that they are just a little better than A&M. And we saw that when they played in the regular season. We saw that again yesterday. They were a little fresher. And the Volunteers are absolutely a team that can win the entire tournament later this month. We're going to get into all the things that A&M has to do in the NIT. We're also going to break down why they should have been in over Rutgers, Notre Dame, Wyoming, Indiana, and Michigan. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We got 2 hours left on TexAgs Radio this morning, which is presented, as always, by David Gardner's Jewelers. It's Mike Lucas filling in for David Nuño. We got Coach Schloss coming up in just a bit.
The flagship station for Aggie athletics is The Zone. Whenever the Aggies are playing, you can hear them right here at 1150 and 93.7 FM. Thanks to our listeners and our Aggie broadcast sponsors: Pioneer Steel, Gulf States Toyota, Cherry Rafino with Coldwell Banker Apex Realty, and Amarillo National Bank. Here's a big gig 'em to all these sponsors. Listen to Aggie Athletics on The Zone 1150 and 93.7 FM.
Did you get a call or message that mentioned Social Security that made you feel threatened or scared? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, press you for personal information, or demand instant payment. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Don't fall for it. Hang up, ignore them. Report this criminal activity to oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
It's entertainment, it's sports, it's aliens. It's Chip Howard, Sports Talk. Weekdays 4 to 6 of the Zone, 1150 AM and 93.7 FM. This is KZNE College Station Bryan.
From WTAW, I'm Chelsea Reber with a news update on the Zone. The College Station City Council agrees to name 3 members to a subcommittee to modify policies on naming city facilities. That's after Councilwoman Elizabeth Kuhnhaus sought to bring a racial balance.
So the census says that we're 64% white, 15% Hispanic, 10% Asian, and 7% black.
Kuhnhaus was appointed along with Dennis Maloney, who proposed naming 5 specific city facilities. Bob Brick was also named to the group to work with city staff. A Brazos County District Court jury last week convicted and punished a Caldwell man for stomping and punching his wife's face almost 5 years ago. 44-year-old Jose Lopez Jr. was sentenced to 12 years for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The district attorney's office says the attack in June of 2017 took place as the woman was attempting to end her relationship with Lopez and leave their home. Congressman Pete Sessions announces federal funding for a variety of projects around CD17. Brazos County is mentioned specifically in 3 highway projects. Sessions' office says the House and Senate have passed and sent to the president $3 million towards the interchange at Welborn Road and George Bush Drive, $3 million towards widening FM 1179 from Boonville Road to Steep Hollow Road, and $3 million towards adding a grassy median on Highway 6 from Hearn to the Brazos-Robertson County line. The third-place finisher in the 5-person Republican primary for the Texas House seat that includes Burleson and Milam counties will get a recount of paper ballots thanks to private donations. Tom Glass, who finished 424 votes out of the GOP runoff in HD 17, thanked more than 100 donors who paid the $5,600 deposit for the recount. Glass issued a statement that counting paper ballots was the result of allegations of remote hacking of Texas electronic systems in the 2020 presidential race. He says he has seen no evidence that elections administrators did anything questionable. I'm Chelsea Reber on The Zone.
If you own construction equipment and need replacement rubber tracks, now's the time to get $200 off your next set of rubber tracks at WPI. Regardless of your machine's make or model, WPI can help. From custom hydraulic hoses, O-rings, and depth to teeth, buckets, and blades is at your local WPI. Visit Jesse James at WPI's new location in Bryan. Hurry in. $200 off rubber tracks in soon. Highway 21 East at Marino Road or click WPI.com.
Get ready for the St. Joseph Health Grand Fondo Ride. Sunday, April 24th, cycle with hundreds of riders through the Brazos Valley countryside. The Grand Fondo Ride is presented by the Stella Hotel and Lake Walk. All proceeds raised from the event will benefit St. Joseph Health Cancer Center. Registration is now open at bcsgrandfondo.com. Log on today to register or sign up to volunteer. Cycle, hope, inspire at the Grand Fondo Ride, Sunday, April 24th.
Good morning, sports fans. I'm Zach Taylor with your Aggie Sports Minute on The Zone. This Sports Minute is brought to you by Hilco Meadow Roofing and Supply. Call 936-825-0500 or click HilcoSupply.com. Texas A&M men's basketball will not be headed to the NCAA tournament despite reaching the SEC championship game. The Aggies came up just shy of clinching an automatic bid yesterday, falling to 9th-ranked Tennessee 65-50. However, they did secure a number 1 seed at the NIT tournament. First up will be a home game against Alcorn State tomorrow night at 8 o'clock at Reed. Baseball clinched its weekend series against Santa Clara yesterday with a 5-2 win at Bluebell. Austin Boast went 2 for 3 at the plate with a homer as the Ags improved to 10-5 on the year. Meanwhile, a rough weekend for softball as the ladies were swept by 20th-ranked Auburn. The Maroon and White fell on a walk-off Friday night, followed by a pair of losses in Sunday's doubleheader. Out on the tennis courts, men's head coach Steve Denton has passed Hall of Famer David Kent for most wins in program history. Denton claimed win number 319 against Mississippi State yesterday afternoon, followed by another victory against Abilene Christian. For the 11th-ranked Aggie women, they had no problem with Ole Miss, 5-2 in Oxford. The ladies are now 18-1 overall and 4-0 in SEC play. And the A&M men's and women's track and field teams won 3 event national titles, while the men's team finished 5th at the NCAA Indoor Championships Saturday in Birmingham. And that's been your Aggie Sports Minute, brought to you by Hilco Meadow Roofing and Supply. On The Zone, I'm Zach Taylor.
Listening to The Zone on your Amazon Dot or Echo is easy. Even Louie figured it out. 2 simple steps, and you can hear Chip Howard Sports Talk, TexAgs Radio, The Louie Bellina Show, and many of your favorite A&M teams anytime, anywhere with your special friend, Alexa. Step 1, and only one time, say, Alexa, enable Zone 1150 skill. Then anytime you want to hear your favorite host or teams, all you have to do is say, Alexa, play Zone 1150. Make sure to set it all up and say, Alexa, enable Zone 1150 skill, and listen in anytime just by saying, Alexa, play Zone 1150.
Welcome back to TexAgs Radio from the David Gardner's Jewelers, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, excuse me. It's Mike Lucas filling in for David Nuño in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're joined now by Jim Schlossnagle, the head coach of the Texas A&M baseball team. The Aggies taking 2 of 3 from Santa Clara this weekend. Coach, you talked about needing this team to put together small victories, and they're learning how to win ugly. Is that a skill that can be taught, and how invaluable is that as you guys get ready for SEC play?
Well, I mean, I think anytime you can get a win, no matter how ugly or pretty it is, it's obviously good, especially given our roster situation, injuries, and all the stuff that's going on. So, we'll take it. And, I mean, I haven't coached this, full season in the SEC yet, but looking from afar, any win is a good win. So they're so hard to get. And we'll take it. So that was definitely a good weekend for us. Certainly would have liked to spread the games over 3 days instead of a doubleheader. Gives our pitching a better chance to be successful, I think. But we'll take it.
2-out hitting was a bright spot for you guys on Sunday. Logan Britt broke the game open with his double in the 7th, and Dylan Rock came in with a double right after that. How much of an emphasis do you guys put on 2-out hitting, and how important is that to winning some of these tight games that you guys have been in?
Well, the game's about pitching, defense, and timely hitting. So 2-out hitting is certainly, that's what changes games. When you're on defense, you want to finish the inning and not allow them to score with 2 outs, and the opposite when you're on offense. And yeah, it's something. It's around in our batting practice every single day. It's not something that can really be practiced. It's more about just understanding that you're trying to put together a good at-bat and get a good pitch to hit and put a good swing on it. So, I think that's the key. And again, that's something that's going to come and go. But it's more just about being consistent with your at-bats, regardless of the out or the situation, and knowing that you're in charge and just get a good pitch to hit. I mean, that's really the essence of it all.
Micah Dallas on the mound was once again in stellar form on Saturday. He's been really the ace of the staff so far. So is this kind of what you expected from Micah as you brought him in the transfer portal? And has he kind of developed into that number one guy you can count on Friday nights?
Well, I've seen him pitch, very well. And certainly when I was at TCU and he was at Tech, so I had a chance to see him pitch as a Friday night starter and as a relief pitcher. He's certainly capable of, when he's got it going, he's capable of pitching with anybody in the country. And I think he really enjoys being here. I think he's thriving at Texas A&M. I think Coach Yeski's done a really nice job with all of our pitchers, but especially Micah, and kind of helping him be real self-aware of who he is and what kind of pitcher he needs to be. So, he threw the first game on Saturday. Detmer's been throwing Fridays for us the first 3 weeks of the season. Nathan's had a little bit of a rough spell in the last 2 starts, but we still have high hopes for Nathan, and he's proven he can pitch at this level. So we'll, since we played on Saturday, somebody's going to pitch on, one day short rest. So we'll see how everybody's feeling here the first part of the week, and then make a decision on what order we pitch in. Ryan Prager's actually been, right there with Dallas in terms of being the, super consistent starting pitcher. And I think, given our situation and our injuries, especially in the infield in the last 2 weeks, to have a freshman go out there yesterday against a team that was really swinging the bat well, and throw, over 6 shutout innings, along with Dallas, that was the performance of the weekend.
You mentioned Detmer a second ago. Coach, how do you kind of rebuild someone's confidence when they are going through a rough stretch, especially on the mound where pitching is, almost as mental as it is physical?
Yeah, I mean, the whole game of baseball is as mental as it is physical. I think, we just show him video of him doing well, and he's very aware the game has ebbs and flows to it, and he knows why he didn't have success the last couple starts. for them, it begins with fastball command and then the ability to land an off-speed pitch for a strike. And so when you're not landing one of those off-speed pitches for strikes, and then you don't command your fastball, then you're behind in counts, and B, you're throwing the ball to the middle of the plate, or you're giving free bases, and that's just a recipe for disaster. It doesn't matter who you're playing, Washington State or Santa Clara, or this weekend with LSU. So Nathan's a better pitcher than that. Sometimes you're able to win without your best stuff. I actually thought Micah's start the other day was his worst start in terms of his command, velocity, everything else. But, he had some balls hit at people, and it was a 7-inning game, and he was able to kind of battle through it with the wind blowing in. But Nathan didn't have that luck. But, we're fully confident in Nathan, and I expect him to rebound really well this week.
Speaking of this week, you guys have Houston before heading down to Baton Rouge. Coach, you could put an extra – I know you want to win every game, and that's obviously the goal every season, but do you put a little extra emphasis on winning the last non-conference game before you have to start SEC play?
No, because we have so many more non-conference games to play every Tuesday or more the rest of the week. So, yeah, you'd like to go into it feeling good, but I know Houston's playing well. Todd Whitting and I are the head coach of Houston. He and I are very close friends. He was my assistant at TCU for 6 or 7 years, whatever it was. He deserves as much credit for getting that program off the mat as anybody, because he's the one that signed all the good players we had that led us to regionals, super regionals, and the College World Series in 2010. So we're looking forward to tomorrow and getting Christian Curtis back out there and against a Houston team that frankly beat us up pretty good when we had the fall game. So we have a lot to prove tomorrow night.
I know it's your first go around through the SEC, and you don't want to look too far ahead, but knowing you're heading to Baton Rouge to open up your SEC coaching career in league play, Coach, are you a little more excited and I don't want to say nervous, but any nervous energy about getting ready to go through the gauntlet?
I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to the experience. I'm definitely not nervous. I coached at Tulane for 8 years. I've been a part of plenty of games in the old Alex Box Stadium. This will be my first one in the new Alex Box Stadium. So have a lot of friends in New Orleans, a lot of friends in Baton Rouge. May not be my friends this weekend, but I absolutely love the people of South Louisiana. I was a part of that culture for 8 years when I was at Tulane. And yes, I know how rough they can be on the opposing fans, but they're also super hospitable and have always treated me well. So, we'll get through the U of H game and then turn our focus to LSU. And it's a long season, and I have I certainly watch from afar as to what kind of gauntlet the league is, but that's one of the primary reasons that myself and our coaching staff came to Texas A&M is to be a part of that. And so I can promise you there's nobody out there more than myself and our coaching staff that wants to build a huge winner here that the 12th man can be proud of, and that's going to happen. And we're excited about getting that process started in conference play.
15 games into the season now, you guys are 10-5, shuffling things around in the lineup. Do you feel like you have an idea of what A&M's best lineup is and what guys fit best 1 to 9 together?
I have a perfect idea of what it looks like. The problem is, our starting shortstop's out 4 to 6 weeks, and our starting third baseman's out 4 to 6 weeks. Ryan Targach, we'll see how he feels. He missed the games yesterday. Ty Hodge and Austin Strachner, and these are guys that Austin was a guy we felt like we were going to redshirt, have high hopes for him, but just didn't think there would be a spot for him this year. And now here we are, and got shuffling guys around, guys playing different spots, so yeah. I mean, I have a pretty good idea. We're getting up. We need to get more out of some of our veteran players from an offensive standpoint to help carry the load for these really young guys that I'm not sure they're quite ready to play right now. But it is what it is. And they're good kids. They're working hard, and we'll keep grinding it out. But I think the lineup you've seen out there yesterday, for the most part, with the exception of a couple moves here and there, it is what it is, and we'll move forward with that.
From a coaching standpoint, how frustrating is it when you go into the season with high hopes and then things that you can't control, like injuries to Trevor Warner and other players, kind of derail exactly what you want to do from the get-go?
Well, I mean, you know what's going to happen. It's part of the game. Obviously, it's frustrating. It's way more frustrating for the player, because it's their career and it's their body, and they're the ones that are in pain, and they're the ones that are banged up. But you talk about it leading up to the season, and you try to tell. You start the season off, and there's guys that aren't in the lineup, and there's guys that aren't playing much. You try and encourage them and say, you better be ready because things can change in an instant. And they have. And so it obviously tests the depth of your program. And that's something that we're trying to, build in recruiting. But there's no AAA. There's nobody to call up. And our team is our team. And, the Austin guys like Schlossnagle and Ty Hodge and Cole Kaler moving over to shortstop. What a blessing that is to have a guy that, has been an everyday shortstop for 3 or 4 years in college to be able to plug in while Kalai's down. So we'll just keep, no one's going to feel sorry for us. We have to try to win baseball games in a lot of different ways, but we have to catch the baseball, and that's my concern. That was that's what I said going into the season was going to be the biggest strength of this team, was our ability to catch the baseball in the infield, and that was proven true. Now we have to do it with some other guys. So if we can just get the outs the other team gives us, then and throw strikes, then I like our chances.
We'll end with this one, Coach. 15 games in, what has surprised you the most about this particular Texas A&M baseball team? Something that maybe you didn't expect heading into the year that has become a prominent thing, or something you've noticed?
I think, you never know when you have I would say our starting pitching, we've had 2 or 3 bad outings out of 15. Prager, you always, I knew he was good because you just see it, his demeanor, his presence, his maturity. He's obviously super talented, but he's actually exceeded my expectations of him to this point. And I think Micah had an inconsistent career at Texas Tech for whatever reason, and so far through 4 starts, he has been consistent. I think Christian Curtis is slowly getting better. He was a guy who didn't even hardly pitch in the fall because he was coming off injury. So I would say, although our starting pitching, I'd probably grade it out as a B. It's definitely better, than maybe I thought it would be, at least through 4 weeks.
Awesome, Coach. Best of luck this week, and thanks for taking some time this morning to join us on the BCS.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, Giggum.
I got to take a quick break here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. When we come back, we're talking more Texas A&M basketball and how the Aggies were robbed of a chance to play in March Madness.
Hey guys, David Nuño here for the Association of Former Students. They're the oldest, most inspiring tradition of helping out Aggies out there. They've been doing it for over 140 years. That's right. They've been doing it, and they've been doing it because of you out there. They help with scholarships, student assistant programs, Aggie Band, Silver Taps, Rain Day, class reunions, muster, tailgate, traveling Aggies, etc. That's what the association does. Have you ever stopped there to think about why? Why do they do it? Well, they do it for you guys. That's exactly what they do. They are in support of A&M and all Aggies everywhere. They help many, many programs and the services and the traditions that Aggies love out there. So I want to encourage you to check out IamTheWhy.com. That's the site you go to find all these amazing human interest stories about people just like you. Human interest stories about people who've had to persevere and gotten help through the Association of Former Students. IamTheWhy.com. See the why, feel the why. Go check it out. It is IamTheWhy.com.
I'm Chelsea Reber with your community calendar on the Zone, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. With an easy refinance, save over $350 a month. NMLS 1309378, Equal Housing Opportunity. Brazos Valley Troop is holding an improv jam, workshop, and performance opportunity on Saturday, March 19th for kids ages 10 and up. To register or for more information, email trooperinfo@gmail.com. The Brazos County Master Gardener Spring Plant Sale is Saturday, March 26th from 8 to 11 a.m. at the Brazos County Extension Office. Bring your wagon and load up. Newly formed cancer support groups are available for cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers the fourth Monday of each month. No reservations are necessary. Contact Mending Hearts for more information. Help the Brazos Valley Food Bank bring hope to the table. Go online to bvfb.org. That's your community calendar, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. I'm Chelsea Reber on the Zone.
Hi, this is Jeff Vanderwood with Veribank. Veribank is continuing to grow in the Brazos Valley with a brand new full-service banking center on Highway 6 in front of Academy. We have a team of genuine bankers specializing in personal and business banking, wealth management, and investor real estate lending, ready to serve you. Veribank is here to help you succeed financially, and you can bank on it.
Visit verabank.com today. That's VERA bank.com. Verabank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
New message. Hey, girlfriend, it's Carol from jury duty. We never actually spoke, but I saw you ordered the same hoagie as me at lunch. What are the chances? Anywho, I heard you just got a boat. We should totally grab some hoagies and take it out for a spin.
When you get a boat, you also get new friends. Make sure Progressive's one of them and get coverage today for as little as $100 a year.
Do I want to feel the wind in my hair? Guilty as charged. Oh, seriously, let's ride on your boat.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Our publications reach every corner of the Brazos Valley, and we want to partner with you in sharing your message with the community. You may recognize a few of our Bryan Broadcasting publications.
Best of the Brazos Valley.
Brazos Life, the annual manual.
Welcome home, Brazos Valley.
Brazos Family. Brazos Wellness.
Brazos Valley Bride.
Peace, Brazos Christian Life.
With the combined power of 7 magazine titles, 11 radio stations, and digital solutions, Bryan Broadcasting Publications can help you be heard. Call 979-695-9595 to learn more.
Here at The Zone, we like to hook you up with tickets to all the places that you want to be. And it can be Aggie football, basketball, baseball, Schlitterbahn, or maybe seeing your favorite bands in concert. It's Chili Fest time of the year. And if you'd like to win a pair of tickets to go to both nights of Chili Fest, the Randy Rogers Band, Co Wetzel, and so much more, go register now at Gage Gandy Bail Bonds. If you'd like to win a pair of tickets to Chili Fest, go register now at Gage Gandy Bail Bonds.
She said I'm going out with my girl.
Welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. This is Mike Lucas filling in for David Nuño today in the Rollo Insurance Studio. David will be back tomorrow and Wednesday. Then he's off again Thursday and Fridays, enjoying some spring break with his family, as he should. Some well-deserved time off for Mr. Nuño.
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Dalton. I don't know if you could, and anyone else could hear that but me. But
yeah, everybody heard you. I decided to come on air. Nice. Jamie approves. Richard, no one cares. But yeah, you're doing a great job. It's not always easy on fill-in host duty, but I think you're doing a stand-up job.
I do appreciate that. I got the text at about 6 o'clock last night, so I wasn't quite sure how this was going to work, but I think we're doing pretty good, and we got some other stuff to get to. So
when in doubt, we just plow ahead and do some radio. That's the TexAgs radio way.
I love that. Well, Dalton, while you're on, I'm going to read you some blind resume numbers, and you tell me which one you think deserved to be in the tournament, which one didn't, okay?
Go for it.
Team A was 42nd in the net. Team B was 77th. Team A, 9-9 in quad 1 and quad 2 games. Team B, 9-10. Team A, 0 quad 4 losses. Team B, 1 quad 4 loss. Team A, 23 total wins. Team B, 22 total wins. Just off the blind resume test, do you think Team A deserves to be in or Team B deserves to be in?
I wonder, do you think Team A, what if Team A had beat Team B head-to-head on a neutral floor? Did that happen? Because if so, I'd take Team A.
Well, if we're gonna get Team A may have beaten another team in head-to-head, not this team head-to-head.
Are we talking about Rutgers?
We are talking about Rutgers, which hurts my heart because Rutgers is my New Jersey school. But when you look at the resumes side by side,
Wolf. Yeah, give me Team A.
It's Team A. We'll go to team. This one does include a head-to-head. Team A 21-10 regular season record. Team B 22-11. Team A 2-8 in quad one wins. Team B 4-9 in quad one games. Team A 53 in the net. Team B 42nd in the net. Team B also beat Team A head-to-head. Yet somehow Team A made the NCAA tournament.
That's pretty crazy.
How about this? A&M finished the year with 23 wins, 12 in the SEC. Michigan had 17 wins overall. Michigan is the first team since Georgia, the first team since Georgia in 2001 to receive an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament while only being 3 games above 500. You talk about an 8-game losing streak in the regular season for A&M. How about Michigan with a 17-14 record? Only 3 games over 500. Granted, they had the 5th strongest overall strength of schedule, but they didn't win those games. You could schedule teams and play Power 5 opponents, but if you don't beat them, does it really matter?
Isn't the crazy thing that Michigan not only got in, but Michigan got in and avoided the play-in game, as opposed to Indiana, who beat them, right? Indiana beat Michigan in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
I'm not imagining that.
No,
and Indiana's in the play-in game. That to me is insane in itself.
You would think that head-to-head should matter more than almost anything else. Like, hey, we're comparing apples to oranges because it's the ACC versus the Big 12. It's the SEC versus the Pac-12. The level of competition is different. But the only true comparison you have is head-to-head. And A&M beat Notre Dame. Indiana beat Michigan. Wyoming played nobody. And Rutgers does have some good wins over some tournament teams, but they're 77th in the net. I want to pull up a tweet real quick from Travis Brown, and he brought this to my attention, but according to Bart Torvik, who compares every team's resume historically, you could schedule it out, teams with comparable resumes to A&M's this season, dating back to 2009, have all received at-large bids to the NCAA tournament. That was 11 teams with a relatively comparable resume to Texas A&M, and all 12 had received at-large bids to the NCAA tournament, meaning this year's Aggies are an outlier. And some of those teams include some pretty prominent teams, as I pull up the tweet here, like UCLA in 2011, Temple in 2013, Providence and Dayton in 2014, Penn State 2011, Colorado 2013, Nebraska 2014, Memphis 2014, Seton Hall 2017, and Texas A&M in 2009. So going by the comparison, which includes the net, their strength of schedule, their seed, what type of bid they receive, their overall resume score, those teams historically have made the NCAA tournament. And I will say one more time, and I will repeat this till the day I die, 12 wins in the SEC should get you in. And if the committee wants to consider the full body of work, then the 8-game losing streak has to be considered with the same weight as winning 3 games in a row in the SEC tournament, knocking off 3 teams who were all in contention for an NCAA tournament bid, including Auburn, who's a 2 seed, including Arkansas, who's a 4 seed, including beating Alabama, who's a 6 seed on the road. And it doesn't matter. And Dalton, if you have an answer to why it doesn't matter, please enlighten us all, because I can't make sense of it.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's crazy. I hate leaving it up to committees, and someone brought up a good point. I think it might have been Dave on the A&B text line. This is the problem with automatic bids, right? You don't always get the best teams. I know we're talking about at-large bids, but you're talking about a limited number of bids because we say, hey, we have to let certain conference championships in. I kind of agree. I hope we never have auto bids in football, only further highlighted by this whole process.
Yeah, and the issue with auto bids, too, is in certain leagues that don't necessarily get multiple teams in, if the top seed doesn't win the tournament, it steals bids from other teams like A&M, like Richmond yesterday. Davidson was a lock to make the tournament, whether or not they won the A-10 conference. They were 27-5, I believe, heading into that game, had beaten a lot of good teams. they were a lock. But they lose to Richmond in the A-10 final yesterday, which eliminates a bubble spot for a Power 5 team that should have been A&M to get in. And it happens in not just that league, but in other leagues around the country where you see a team who doesn't win its conference tournament end up taking a spot away from a more deserving team because of how the system works. And it's a system that is beautiful in certain aspects. It adds drama. It's fun. I love March Madness. But it's a flawed system. And anyone who wants to debate the fact that it's not flawed for its own different reasons, I think is trying to protect themselves from being hurt. The system's flawed, just like the NCAA or the College Football Playoff Committee is. And until we get some more transparency as to why certain teams get in as opposed to certain teams don't, instead of hiding behind the NCAA shield, we're going to continue to have these conversations. And it stinks that A&M's on the outside looking in this year. Had they won one of those games during the 8-game losing streak, had they gone 1-7 during that stretch, not 1-8, I'm sure they get in. I do think it's hard to digest and swallow an 8-game losing streak is something to quantify putting a team in as, but that should be weighed with the same weight as the rest of the games this season. And at the end of the day, the total resume, the total body of work for A&M is 23-12, 12 SEC wins, and a trip to the SEC tournament championship game. That's the total body of work. And a team on a blind resume test, that team with that resume should be in 10 out of 10 times. I will go to the grave thinking that. And that's all the time we have for this break.
Nuño here from Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature. They're dedicated to maintaining that sanctuary for family, for nature, for community out there, and they want to tread lightly on that land. They've got that healthy community aspect out there as well, respect for that native landscape, that wildlife, 2,600 acres of open space farms and 30 miles of trails and homes. Milliken Reserve, what they do is they connect families to nature. They connect families to each other, really, with that extensive network of trails, wooded landscape, and that walking into the equestrian paths, creeks and ponds and gathering areas. It's such a beautiful, beautiful place to check out. It's Milliken Reserve. They're awesome. Hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, equestrian trails, evening yoga, summer camps, music festivals, farmer market tours, farm tours. Go check it out. The website's real easy to remember, too. MillikenReserve.com. That's MillikenReserve.com.
We once had Olin do push-ups on air for good radio. Go figure.
Are you ready?
Let's begin. TexAgs Radio with David Nuño. Weekdays on The Zone.
Hey parents, when it comes to your child's education, there's a lot to consider. No matter what you're searching for, search the Bryan Broadcasting half-price tuition program first. We've partnered with schools and learning centers throughout the area to get your students started with high-quality programs at half price. Right now, we're featuring price tuitions at Hopewell Classical Day School, Kinder Music, Happy Camper School, Multilingual Academy, and more. Half-price tuitions are first come, first served, and availability is limited. Go to halfpricebrazos.com.
Our publications reach every corner of the Brazos Valley, and we want to partner with you in sharing your message with the community. You may recognize a few of our Bryan Broadcasting publications.
Best of the Brazos Valley.
Brazos Life, the annual manual.
Welcome home, Brazos Valley.
Brazos Family. Brazos Wellness.
Brazos Valley Bride.
Peace. Brazos Christian Life.
With the combined power of 7 magazine titles, 11 radio stations, and digital solutions, Bryan Broadcasting Publications can help you be heard. Call 979-695-9595 to learn more.
The strength of America, our values, our way of life hasn't just been won on the battlefield. It's won every day in our communities when we come together, extending hands of compassion, service, and hope to those who need it most. For over 100 years, the American Legion has been strengthening communities across our nation by providing life-saving help and support to our veterans and neighbors during times like we're facing today. It's what the Legion's all about. From blood drives to distributing food, from responding to emergencies and protecting the most vulnerable among us. Our mission is making America's communities stronger.
We are one family, and therefore we care.
We are the American Legion, veterans strengthening America. To learn how you can help, visit legion.org.
The flagship station for Aggie athletics is The Zone. Whenever the Aggies are playing, you can hear them right here at 1150 and 93.7 FM. Thanks to our listeners and our Aggie broadcast sponsors, Park at Tradition's Exceptional Senior Living, First Financial Bank, and Cooper's Barbecue. Here's a big gig-em to all these sponsors. Listen to Aggie Athletics on the Zone 1150 and 93.7 FM.
From the Combine.
The central storyline of this Combine and the sea of storylines about to unfold.
To free agency.
Jarvis Landry, he's at a point in his career where he should look to team up.
To the NFL Draft.
We focus in on the quarterbacks. The draft is generally defined by those guys.
The NFL season never ends.
Listen in to ESPN Radio, weeknights and weekends on Sports Radio, 1150 and 93.7 FM.
Welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. This is Mike Lucas filling in for David Nuño today, and we are joined now by Tom Hart of ESPN SEC Network, joining us on the BCSI hotline. Tom, when you look at how this selection committee determined which 68 teams were in the tournament, does it make any sense to you that Texas A&M is not one of those 68 teams and was left on the outside looking in?
Well, Mike, I just came off of a really busy week of calling college basketball from Tennessee and Arkansas to close the regular season, through the SoCon semifinals and finals, and then through the SEC tournament through the quarterfinals. And I guess the selection committee just doesn't like me. I suppose they didn't watch any of my games because they certainly didn't watch any of the SEC tournament. You can't tell me that. And it, kind of hurts my feelings, Mike, to be honest with you. Like, come on. I'm working hard. At least you could turn on SEC Network every once in a while.
I tuned in every game you were on.
That's what I'm talking about. You were watching the ACC Network, Dalton. I don't understand if you're going to judge a team by its entire body of work, then why you ignore the last 2 weeks, which is apparently what they did with A&M. Same thing with Tennessee. I mean, I thought Tennessee deserved a better seed than what they got. Providence got blown out in its tournament. They seemed to ignore that. Duke didn't fare well in the ACC tournament. They seemed to ignore that. If it's really this difficult to put together a bracket, then either move the selection show back by 24 hours or move the conference tournaments up by 3 days, because you obviously need more lead time. The thing that bothered me the most about the committee chair when he was asked about Texas A&M immediately on the post-game show, I think this was on the CBS show. I watched it on both the CBS show and the ESPN show. He didn't reference what I thought was the biggest strike against Texas A&M. And if he would have come out and said, listen, they had a great run late in the season, but their non-conference schedule wasn't strong enough for us to keep them into consideration, relative to some of the other teams they're competing against. It's tough to argue against that. I mean, the non-conference with, Corpus Christi and Northwestern State and Dallas Christian and Central Arkansas, that doesn't do you any favors. It doesn't matter that you start with a glistening record when you don't have quality wins in there. Yes, the Notre Dame win was good, especially because they made the field, and the Wisconsin loss was good for strength of schedule. But overall, the non-conference schedule was soft. But he did reference as an excuse to keep them out the 8-game losing streak. And I will tell you, and I had done this research, 10 days ago. There had never been an NCAA tournament at large berth that got in with an 8-game losing streak during the regular season. And since the tournament expanded in the mid-'80s, only 2 teams with losing streaks as long as 7 games had ever gotten into the tournament. That being said, what I just shared with you is the most irrelevant fact ever, because they're not supposed to look at, and they don't, by the team sheet, they don't look at these schedules in a linear fashion, right? We know that 15 years ago they went away from how are you playing lately. They just look at your total body of work. So if you're just looking at the total body of work, you don't see an 8-game losing streak. You see a loss to Kentucky. this is in order. I'm just using the Ken Pom numbers here, but in order of the teams that they lost to in that stretch, you would see a loss to Kentucky, a loss to Tennessee, a loss to Auburn, a loss to LSU, a loss to Arkansas, and on down the line. It doesn't look like an 8-game losing streak. So why are we applying that in this scenario? I just think that at some point they back themselves into a corner by the bracketing rules that they have to use, and they just flat ignore what happens late in the year. Because to ignore the win against Auburn and the win against Arkansas, throw in the win against Florida, what they did late in the year against Alabama and Florida in mid-February, that's ignoring a good portion of A&M's whole body of work.
Yeah, I think if you're going to weigh the 8-game losing streak and look at the whole body of work, you have to also weigh what they did in the SEC tournament, especially the last 2 weeks with the same weight. But until the committee is going to be more transparent on exactly what reasons left some teams in and some teams out, we're never going to know exactly why or why not A&M was on the outside looking in of this tournament. Tom, though, when you look at the SEC as a whole, do you feel like the conference in general was a little bit disrespected by the selection committee? They only got 6 teams in as opposed to the Big Ten, which got 9 teams in. And a lot of those bubble teams went in favor of the Big Ten schools as opposed to the SEC schools.
If you wanted to point to the Big Ten specifically, you could. Rutgers has a really crazy resume, some really good wins, some horrendous losses. Michigan was living on the bubble the whole time and then lost in the conference tournament, so that's hard for me to explain. But to me, it's not just the Big Ten. It's having Duke in as a better seed than Tennessee. Once again, you've ignored the tournament, and what you do when you ignore the tournament is you ignore the whole body of work because, and I think Kentucky is deserving of its seed, but if you take into consideration the tournament, then you know that Tennessee has won 2 out of 3 versus Kentucky. Use that as an example. They say they don't go conference affiliation, head to head, but that to me would have Tennessee in front of Kentucky. So that wasn't paid much attention to. Duke's last 2 weeks is not the fitting of the seed that they got. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the SEC as a whole. Then the question is, if they did it intentionally, why is it? Is it because of the SEC being a leader and a disruptor for a lot of what they want to accomplish, in regards to conference expansion? Are they upset about, the reputations of some of the coaches in this league, including Will Wade, who's now on his way out? Are they trying to make a judgment call on what college sports should be? And when you see a league take hits as the SEC did, then you have to ask yourself those questions and say, well, then why? And if this is the case, I guarantee you Greg Sankey went to bed last night with a notebook and jotted down some ideas and said, okay, when do we do this breakaway? You know what I mean? Like, he's the last guy that you want to tip off if you're the NCAA.
I could not agree more than that. Tom, have you had a chance to look at the full bracket? Have you filled out a bracket yet?
I started to, but then I shifted my focus because I'm on my way to Bryan College Station for the NIT, and I said, let me learn something about Alcorn State because I got that call. So yeah, I looked at it, but I didn't go deep. I know who I like, generally speaking. I mean, I saw Arizona early in the season. I think they're a really tough team to beat because they have great length and they play with really good tempo. Gonzaga is obviously a great team. I would not bet on Duke. I just think they're too inconsistent and their youth doesn't show up in big games. I love Tennessee, but the one thing that Rick Barnes' team is missing is a real go-to scorer. They share the wealth offensively, and they have different guys who step up. Defensively, they're elite. But I feel like in the tournament, late game, late clock situations, you need a superstar. And they're missing that one type A, give me the ball dude. Purdue doesn't play enough defense for my taste. Texas Tech does play elite defense, and they go on and on. But out of the SEC, I really think that Arkansas is a sleeper team. J.D. Notae got in foul trouble the other night. That was obviously an issue for them. But overall, Note is elite on both ends of the floor. Jalen Williams is a big who can score and defend. Amude is a dangerous shooter who kind of evens the floor. And Eric Musselman is used to quick preparation and turnaround because of all of his years coaching in pro ball, whether that was the NBA or the CBA. We're playing multiple games in a week. So Arkansas would be my sleeper team right now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Alcorn State game. We haven't got into the full breakdown of Texas A&M versus Alcorn State yet, but Tom, when you look at how disappointing it must have been for the Aggies not to make the NCAA tournament, and knowing Buzz Williams as well as you do and his coaching style, can you foresee or imagine any scenario where A&M doesn't come out on Tuesday night fully prepared and ready to make a point to everyone that, hey, we should have been one of these 68 teams in? Or do you see a situation where maybe a hangover situation occurs where they're just too disappointed to get up for that kind of game?
Well, I shouldn't say this part out loud, especially because I'm calling the game, but I'm fairly certain that they could afford to sleepwalk through that game against Alcorn and would be excused if they did, because the emotional investment you put in as an underdog trying to play your way into the NCAA tournament, to fight through Tampa, the games that they won, the manner in which they won them, the fight that they showed, it can be deflating when you don't finish it, right? And it's exhausting when you go through it, both emotionally and mentally. I don't have any doubt Buzz is going to put value in this tournament and get his guys ready to go. To me, it's less about that Alcorn game, and then, all right, then can you put this thing together and get multiple wins and get to Madison Square Garden and salvage something? And Buzz is an elite motivator, so he's going to find what matters to his guys and get them to tap into that and get ready to go. I mean, I think that the second round game could be against a Oregon team that is really talented but disappointing, or a Utah State team that had a really good run. And then if you win that one, you're probably getting a Wake Forest team that I was honestly shocked. Wake got left out just based on what they accomplished during the regular season. I mean, they're a single-digit loss team. It's probably representative of what and where the ACC is right now. But Steve Forbes is a really good coach who just signed an extension to stay there at Wake. If he hadn't, he had a lot of people wanting to hire him, and programs like Louisville and Maryland looking at him. No doubt Florida would have looked at him as well before the new Mike White was leaving. So, yeah, there's a lot to play for still for A&M, and even if they don't tap into what motivates them tomorrow night, they'll figure it out before round two.
Last question here, Tom, before we let you run. How impressive is what Quentin Jackson has done over the last 2 weeks been to you, seeing from where he started this season to now? He's kind of their go-to guy and a guy who was one of the better players in the SEC tournament.
He had a fantastic SEC tournament, and he made plays wherever he needed to make them. I was just as impressed with him defensively as offensively. He gets to the free throw line. He in this day and age, and I think it was a Villanova game the other day where everybody was chucking threes and nobody can get one. In this day and age where you watch Alabama play, they're going to shoot a lot of threes, even if they don't go in, they're going to keep doing them. He's a guy that can get to the rim, that gets to a shot, and knows exactly where his strength is. I remember years ago when Derrick Rose was at Memphis, he was a projected lottery pick, but he didn't have a great run in November, December, even early January. And finally, John Calipari pulled him to the side and he said, hey, where are the three places on the floor that you really love to score? And Rose kind of looked at him like, what do you mean? I can score anywhere. He goes, hey, yeah, I know you can, but name the three places. And he's like, okay, I like to drive and finish with my right, and I like the elbow jumper, and I like the three-pointer from just to the side of the top of the key. He goes, great. For the next two games, you're not shooting anywhere but those three spots. And it kind of reminds me a little bit about Quentin Jackson. Like, he loves the baseline drive. He likes it in short corner. He knows how to get to the rim. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else. Just go do what you do. And if you play to your strengths, that can make you a great player in college basketball.
Awesome. That is Tom Hart of the SEC Network. He'll be on the call tomorrow night, Texas A&M versus Alcorn State. 8 p.m. tip. Tom, appreciate the time and safe travels down to College Station.
All right. Thanks so much.
We got to take another break. This is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
I'm Chelsea Reber with your community calendar on the zone, brought to you by Christine Engler at AggieLoanExpert.com. Get pre-approved today with a 5-minute loan approval. NMLS 1309378, Equal Housing Opportunity. Troop Over the Hill presents a humorous, family-friendly show, An Irish Swine Patch. Performances are March 18th, 19th, and 20th. Make your reservations at TroopOverTheHill.com.